What's on the menu for today? Let's see. I think today we're going to do a hardcore vert salad. So it's essentially green beans. They're the French green beans. And with this salad, we put like a ton of stuff in it. So you'll see as we assemble it, there's a lot of things we put in it. So there's the beans, there's potatoes, there's garlic, there's almonds, there's tomatoes, cheese. Oh, it's an amazing amalgamation of things. It's this flavor thing and these different textures that you get. And then adding in this dressing that goes on top that's made with like vinegar and some oil and some other spices and things. It just kind of rounds it out a lot. It's a really, really good dish. I hope you enjoy bringing this together, and maybe you'll try it too. It's one of those dishes we really like. We try to make it as often as we can, and we put a little tuna on top. You don't have to, of course. We do that and keep it on the side so that you can keep it vegetarian if you want. And actually, no, the feta cheese, never mind, it's not vegan. But you could separate out the cheese too if you wanted to make it completely vegan. So it's a really fun dish that way. Things first, we're going to do a little prep work. Now this dish takes a while to put together because there's some things we need to cook for a while. So let's get started with some roasted garlic. I have one of these clay pots. This is terrific. I take this and I put it in the oven, and it allows for some roasted garlic, and it comes out really good. What I do is I cut my garlic in half and then just place it in the clay pot, and then I'll be able to cook it. So that garlic looks really good. I'm just going to put it in there. I'm going to douse it with a little bit of olive oil, and then I'll put it in the oven at about 375 degrees for about 40 minutes. I keep checking it just to make sure it's done, but once it's done, it's going to be really good. I love my roasted garlic, so I'll just lay that in there and get started with the next step. The other thing I need to make are some potatoes. So I'm going to take a little bit of olive oil, put it in a dish, and then go ahead and slice up some potatoes that then I can use to add to the dish. So I like to roast these up. I'll put them in the same oven and just keep them going as I get little cubes of potatoes here. Chunks are fine. I just want to have something. This is a very textural component dish, so it's nice to have these different flavors and textures in the dish. So I'll go ahead and take all these potatoes, mix them up with that olive oil I put in there, and then just get them onto a pan as soon as they're ready. And that pan I can put in the oven. So I just use a little foil to put on there, and then I'll put these in the oven to go with my garlic. So I'll put them in. They'll be in there for about 30 minutes or so just to get started. And then when I'm getting close to being finished, that's when I'm going to add one more ingredient. We'll just check these real quick and make sure that they're done or not done at this point. They're getting close. You can see my potatoes are getting nice and roasted there. They look really good. So that's going to be a nice addition to the dish. I'm just going to give them a quick turn there, and then I'm just going to check my garlic just to make sure it's not done. And then I'm going to get started with one more thing I need. It just needs a little longer. And the last thing I need is going to be some almonds, and I'll toast the almonds in the oven as well. So they'll be in for the last 7 minutes or so. I just put them in the oven and then let them cook up. And now everybody's ready to come out of the oven. So we'll start with my potatoes. They're ready to come out. And then I'll take out my almonds. They look really nice and roasty and toasty. And then I've got my garlic, and we'll take my garlic out and we'll take a look at it real quick when I put it up here, and we can see that the garlic looks delicious. There's one other prep thing we have to do, and that's getting our hardcore vert, our green beans, ready. We're going to go ahead and cut off the ends and put them in some boiling water. They're going to boil for about 4 minutes. You want them to have a certain toothiness to them. You want them to be just cooked, but not so cooked to where they feel like they're going to be soft. So you just want to get them started. Now the next most important thing is the dressing. And the dressing brings the whole dish together. It gives it a lot of flavor and adheres to all the vegetables that are in there. So you want to make something that's sort of an oil and vinegar base. Now my wife likes to think of it as sort of a family secret and doesn't like to share everything, but I can make my best guess here. It's about a 2-to-1 ratio of olive oil to some sort of vinegar. So we use about a half cup of olive oil, about a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. But you can use other types of vinegar if you like. You could certainly use apple cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, rice wine vinegar. Use something that you like that has a nice flavor profile to it that really brings out the flavors in the dish. So you're going to go ahead and put those two things together. So from there, we're going to start putting some spices in. We're going to start with some garlic. We would like a little garlic in it to give it a little body. It just gives it a little bit of something, right? It kind of balances out all the acidity in the oil. So we'll put about 3 cloves of garlic in, and then we're going to add in some Dijon mustard. And Dijon mustard, you can use whatever kind you like, and you could use a different kind of mustard or something a little bit different if you're not a fan of mustard. But you want to give something that has that little bit of a tanginess to it. And then we're going to add in some dill. I think dill adds a nice flavor to it. Again, if you don't like dill, you could certainly change to something else. There are other spices you could use that'll make it work. And then I like a little bit of salt in there because it just kind of rounds out the flavor, makes it come together just a little bit. And we've got our dressing together. And that's the entirety of our dressing. We're going to just go ahead and shake it up a little bit, and we're ready to go with it. So now we can start with the assembly of the dish. Now, as far as assembly goes, the most important thing to me are the green beans, the garlic, and the potatoes. Everything else is sort of variable. There are certain things we like in it every time, but everything else can be varied. If you like something else better than something, you can certainly change it out and sub for something else. So we started off with some cherry tomatoes this time that we sliced in half and put in the bowl. Then we got our Haricots vert in there. And now I'm going to do some cucumbers. Normally I would do some sort of olives. I like Kalamata olives in this kind of sliced in half, but we didn't have any on hand. I could have used black olives, but I didn't think that would give me what I wanted. So instead I was just going to use up some cucumber I had on hand. I figured that would be a nice addition. And it turned out to be kind of nice. So cucumber is a good choice. You could, again, pick something else if you like something else that'll go with this. So give that a little mix and you'll continue to add ingredients here. Now, feta cheese. We like feta cheese in this. It really gives a nice texture to it. It's a different mouthfeel, right? Everything else, you have these different textures that are going in here. Some crunchy, some kind of chewy, some kind of soft, and you want the brininess and the sweetness. So the feta cheese makes a big difference. Now, I like this Greek feta cheese that we got at Costco. It's really good, and it makes a very big difference in the sort of the complexion of the dish because it's really that good. So we take the feta cheese, dice it up into little cubes, and then put it in the bowl with the other stuff. So now we've got another ingredient in there. Then we'll continue to look at the things we want to add here. Next up, we're going to go ahead and get our potatoes. We've roasted our potatoes earlier. They've come out of the oven and now they've cooled just a little bit, so it's time to put them in the dish. So I'm going to go ahead and just dump them in, and we'll get our potatoes in the dish. Now I just put them all in, just stick them in like that. They've got a little crispiness to them at this point. They do stick a little sometimes, but it's worthwhile. They're really good, and they just make a nice addition to the dish. It just kind of gives another texture and a little more flavor, and just gives it something else that you wouldn't have otherwise. So I really like putting the potatoes in. You can pick something else. If you don't like potatoes or you want to sub for something else, you could certainly do that. I can see a lot of different things working in this dish. We've kind of modified it over time to find something that we like, but you could certainly make it whatever you want. So we, again, give it a little stir just to get things mixed up a little bit. All right, now that we've got that together, we're going to add our almonds that we toasted earlier, and those are really nice in here. They just give another textural component. And now comes my roasted garlic. I happen to love roasted garlic, and when it's done like this, it's just got this great flavor to it. So the key to this is just sort of scooping them out. And sometimes if you get lucky and they're cooked just right, they're easy to just pull right out of the skin, and they just come right out, and it's a very easy thing to work with. And then sometimes you have to work at it just a little bit more, and you can kind of squeeze them to kind of push them out. And that way you get different components in there. Some are pieces, some are little squishy things that are in there, and it just makes it really nice. You can also use a fork or a spoon if you want to try and scoop them out a little more. Makes it a little bit easier in some cases. You can try different techniques if you want to try some different things to see how you can get your garlic out. But the objective is to take that garlic that's been roasted and just make it really nice. Now sometimes I'll take a little bit of the garlic that's left over and I'll use it for other things, for other dishes that I want to use it for. Having some roasted garlic on hand is never a bad thing. Now the dish is basically done, and I want to add one more component, and this is my fish component. I have a nice tuna steak here that I got, and it's a sashimi grade tuna steak. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on the grill. And making it on the grill just gives it a nice char to it, and it goes nicely with this dish. So I'll let it cook for about 3 minutes on a side. Don't want to cook it any more than that because you don't want to overcook it. But as you cook it, you start to get those nice little grill marks on it. You can see that it's starting to sear along the edges, but the middle part is still red. And that's going to make a big difference in the way it comes together. So I could give it one more flip if I want to, just to kind of finish it off just a little bit, maybe get a little more char on there, a little more sear. But that's it. That's all I want to do is just a couple of minutes on the grill like this, and I've got something really nice. Now when I take it off, I'm ready to take it and start slicing it up. I let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then I just slice it up into little pieces. And you can see that it's still got that nice pink inside, like that just makes it really tasty. So when I put it all together, I'll scoop out some of my salad and actually put it on the plate, and then put some slices of fish on top of it. Really, really nice that way. And, as you add dressing, you can add as much or as little dressing as you want to the actual dish. You could add the tuna inside if you want to. If you want to have it be together, you could certainly do that. You could add other things too. If you wanted to not do tuna, you could do something else, but I happen to like the tuna with it. It just kind of comes together with a nice flavor. So there you go. That's my dish. It's a hardcore vert salad, basically, that has some tuna on the side and a really interesting dressing.